Man, it's a great day to be at AcaciaChurch. My name is Pastor Russ Cripps, and me and my wife had the opportunity of being lead pastors here. And I want to tell you, if you've never been to Acacia, this is your first day. What a day you picked to be here, because we're beginning a brand new series called #Goals. And it's not just goals, but you have to do your hands just like this, and you got to say #goals. So everybody, come on, get your hands out. I don't know where your hands would be other than already out, but anyway, just get your hands and just say #goals. Come on, give us some passion. Say #goals. #goals. Look at your neighbor and say #goals. Look at your other neighbor and say, I still love you, #goals. So if you're over the age of 40 years old, let me explain a hashtag. I'm 50, so I am way past that 40-year-old situation mark, whatever you want to call it. But the hashtag, man, it's a cool thing. And it was originated so that you could find like some common thoughts on a particular social media platform. So for instance, if I go to the LSU game and I post a picture of me and the Ruckman family and we're like, woohoo, and we're all excited because LSU won. You know, we're the national champs, by the way. But anyway, and I put #LSU football, and then everybody all across America can get on that same platform and they can search the hashtag. You're going to see me do this 3,000 times over the next few weeks. But anyway, you can search #LSU football, and everybody that has ever posted anything and put that post on there, put that hashtag on there, you can see their post. And so that's what it started. That's where it originated. But it kind of morphed into that, and also this thing where it kind of points to this underlying meaning of the post. And so if you have a picture on there and you put this hashtag, sometimes it's pointing towards really what is being established or what's being said. And some of them are absolutely positively hilarious. So this picture on the screen right here, there's this post. I tried to kiss her and she said, "You didn't read your text from last night, did you?" #how I got dumped. If you got dumped over a text message, ladies and gentlemen, prayer partners will be at the front of the church for you to work through that. Or what about this picture? Does anybody know who this picture is? Anybody? Cool in the gang? Come on. And if you know the song, you got to sing with me, because several times I'm going to sing today. And if you guys don't sing with me, it is going to be a train wreck. So you got to sing with me. But the song goes, celebrate good times. Come on. Do, 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 do. Yeah, right? You're right there with me, right? You know that. Okay. #bad funeral songs. Like that would be a bad funeral song, right? I don't want you guys to do that at my funeral where everybody's like, celebrate good time. He gone. Boom, boom. Yeah. That would not be good, right? That would not be good. So some of these hashtags, man, they're just absolutely hilarious. And then some of them are like this. This is a picture of my parents. Now, if you've been around Acacia, you've heard me talk about my parents. My parents are cooler than your parents. My parents are prettier and more handsome, and they're better. They're just, my parents are my parents. But they're not doing so well right now. Mom is in the nursing home, and Dad recently had a surgery, and they have been married now for 63 years. And this picture that you're looking at is when my dad likes to go and visit my mom. This is them visiting. Like, they'll sit there for about 10 minutes, and they'll be like, okay, you ready for a nap? And then they're going to take a nap. And so I walked in to visit them one time, and I saw them, and I was like, that's #goals. I want my relationship to be like that at 63 years old. At 63 years into the relationship, I want to be by Stephanie's side. And I want her to be by my side. And I want to be established in that kind of a relationship, right? That's where I want my heart to be. So my dad recently had triple bypass. He's 83 years old. He recently had this major surgery. And I'm the executor of whatever estate that they're going to have. It's not a big estate, but he wants me to take care of all that business whenever it happens. And so we didn't know what was going to be happening, and so we had to have some very difficult and trying conversations. And so I'm sitting there with my dad, and I just said, my dad and I have a great relationship, and I said, Dad, I want to tell you something, man. Out of my 50 years that I remember being alive, you know, whatever age that I started remembering life up until now, you have always taught me how to live. And I said, now, as you're stepping into what is probably these last chapters, at least pointing towards home, I said, you're teaching me how to die. And I said, now I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing that you taught me how to live. I'm seeing that you've taught me how to die, and seeing how you're responding to my mom and her needs, I understand you're also teaching me how to love. And so, hashtag goals, right? That's where we're pointing over the next few weeks. And so, as we get some traction here today, I got to admit, we've never done a relationship series here at Acacia Church. And so this one is going to be fun. And so you got to get with me. We're going to have a whole lot of fun. And so if you're ready to have a good time in church today, say, that's me. That's me. Okay, so over the next few weeks, here's what we're going to be looking at. On the screen, you'll see how I believe we can do this. We can have godly relationships in an ungodly world. And the church says amen to that. So here's the problem. We get our information from relationships from the wrong sources. That's the problem with society. And so what we're going to do over the next 4 weeks total is we're going to do this. Today, in week 1, we're going to lay the most important foundation of all foundations. And then in week 2, I'm not going to give it away here today, but we're really going to be talking about your relationship with you, your relationship with yourself. Because if you'll take a moment and consider all of the different relationships that you have in your life, they have one common denominator. And it's you, right? And so we're going to talk about how your relationship with yourself has a direct impact on all of the other relationships in your life. Week 3, me announcing this will probably be a record crowd because it's going to be a PG-13 Sunday, and we're going to be talking about intimacy from a biblical perspective. And so 12 years and younger, go to Acacia Kids. We're not going to do anything silly. It's not going to be graphic, but we are going to cover some sensitive information in reference to biblical intimacy. And then in week 4, we're going to be talking about how to have a godly marriage. And so listen closely. Week 4, week 3, week 2, week 1. If you're married, I'm talking to you. Week 4, week 3, week 2, week 1. If you're not married, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking to not just married folk, I'm talking to all the folks. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to make a commitment. All right? I want you to make a commitment to come for the next 4 weeks because I'm going to make a very bold statement. Listen to me, everybody. All of our campuses, everything, listen. I believe that this series can change your life. And I know that those are strong words, I get it. But here's the reason why I say that, because I believe that whenever your relationships in your life change, then your life will change. And so we're going to be looking at how we can process this information and look at some hashtag goals. Everybody say hashtag goals. Come on, put your hands together and say hashtag goals, all right? So I'm going to come out swinging, and I'm going to shoot down a theory that a lot of people have that I believe sets you up for failure. And again, another strong statement, but here's the deal. Too many of us have come to the idea to where we understand love as only being a feeling. And that is not true. And everybody said amen to that. When you're in love, there are feelings. Oh, there's feelings, absolutely. But listen closely. The feelings must come from the facts. The facts do not come from the feelings. Okay? The feelings come from the facts, not the other way around. So when you think about it, almost every single love song talks about how you feel, right? So again, I'm fixing to sing. And if you don't join me, it's going to be a train wreck, you guys, so you got to help me, okay? So if you know the words of this song, just jump right in. But we're going to go like this. Now, what's love got to do with it? Come on, let me hear you. What's love but a second-hand emotion? Woo, yeah. All right. Told you I'm putting myself out there today. We're really going deep here, so help me if you know this one. Hello from the other side. Come on, help me. I must have called 1,000 times to tell you I'm sorry for the things that I've done. When I put that on my notes, I was like, Jesus, you're going to have to help me through that part right there. And I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, I didn't know either of those songs. Because whenever I heard the word hello, I thought Lionel Richie. Hello, is it me you're looking for? Right? Yeah. I know. Let me get back on my notes before I just have a concert right here. Told you this is going to be fun today. I don't know if it's fun for you, but it's going to be fun for me. But here's the problem. We think that love is a feeling. And when we come to understand that love is just a feeling, when the feelings fade, and they do, then you think it's time to go and look for some new feelings. You see, that's the problem with us thinking that love is all about a feeling. Because if you get all caught up in the emotions, if you get all caught up in the feelings, when the feelings subdue, when the feelings stop being so shiny and they just become normal, then you think, well, she must not be the one. He must not be the one. And so you go out and you start looking for new feelings. And so here's the deal. In your notes or on the screen, we think that love is a feeling, but love is actually a decision. Love is a decision. So let me tell you a story about whenever Stephanie and I and my family lived in Austin, Texas. She was in school, Stephanie was in school, and it was either her undergrad or master's. I don't know which exact program she was in, but one of the things that she was charged to do to learn about world religions was she was to go and she was to study the culture and the marriage traditions of the three, what's called the three Abrahamic traditions, which is the Muslim faith, and the Jewish faith, and the Christian faith. And so she had to see the cultures of these three. And the reason it's called Abrahamic traditions is because it all goes back to our Bible where Abraham was, and then it kind of splits from there, but I won't belabor that point. And so Riley, our youngest daughter, had a friend in elementary school, and their family was from the Middle East, and they were of the Muslim tradition. They practiced Islam. And so Stephanie went and she said, hey, can we talk to you and just learn from you about your culture and learn about your marriage and how it all came to be? And they were like, absolutely, you guys come down. And they invited us in, and we sat down. And we're like, okay, how long you been married? And it was like 10 years or whatever it was, 15 years. We're like, okay, so tell us how it began. And the dude says this. And then my mind was just at this point, because he said, well, it was an arranged marriage. And I was like, whoa, what? What do you mean like an arranged marriage? Like in the movies, an arranged marriage? Like that? And he said, yeah, an arranged marriage. It's like, dude, tell me, how does that thing work? Talk to me about that. And he said, well, and it was like he was shopping for a car or something, man, because he said, well, I'm over here working at Motorola. I call my parents and I say, I'm ready for a wife. And they said, okay, we got one. We'll see you next week. And so they flew from the Middle East 1 week later with this lady who had never met this dude before. Try to imagine how amazing of a situation that this is, right? And so they fly in, and he wants to take good care of her. Let's go to my favorite restaurant. So they went to Pizza Hut, right? I mean, literally, Pizza. You fly a girl across the world, take her somewhere else besides Pizza Hut. But he's like, well, there's cheese in the crust. But anyway, there's this whole situation, right? And so he takes her to Pizza Hut. 2 days later, they get married. Yeah. Right? I don't know what that sound was, but it was perfect. It was perfect. Sorry, our other campuses, somebody just made a noise and it was brilliant. But anyway, how do you stay married all of these years? How did this happen? Tell me what's going on. And then this guy said this sentence, ladies and gentlemen, that was one of the most profound statements I'd ever heard anybody say in my life, especially in the realm of marriage. And he just said, oh, it was very simple. We decided that we were going to love each other. Boom. We decided that we were going to love each other. And I want to explain it like this. I have raised, with the help of my amazing wife, 2 daughters, and I'd like to say we survived. We survived, woohoo. But here's the thing. I decided that I was going to love them. And I want to make a statement to try to help you understand this. I've never changed a diaper out of feelings and excitement. Right? Yeah? I can see a new dad down here on the second row. He's like, yeah. You never just smell something and you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one. Y'all come here. We got to jump in. You're like, whoa, what is your mama feeding you, girl? What's up? And no, never. Like you open it and you're like, oh, goodness. People are going to perish because of this. It's unbelievable. And you just power through it because you've decided that you were going to love them and you decided that you were going to take care of them. And that's what love is. Sometimes you have to decide that you're going to push through the mess. You're going to push through the stuff. You're going to push through the arguments. You're going to push through the whatever, fill in the blank. You're going to have to push through those, and you have to decide that you're going to love your children. You have to decide that you're going to love your spouse. And I want to tell you, I've decided 10,619 times. Every day I decide that I'm going to love Stephanie Cripps. 29 years and 34 days, y'all, she has had access to this. Lucky girl. Woo! Everybody say love. Come on, everybody say love. Is not a feeling. Say it's not a feeling. So here's what we do. Bring me that first box if you don't mind. We take this idea of relationships and we begin to build it, and we start with this box called emotions. Now, I want you to just try to realize, and I want you to try to imagine with me, I want you to try to picture that everything that you have ever learned about the concept of relationships, you've learned from this box called emotions. And if it makes you feel good, then it must be okay. It must be good. And so we're going to put it in this box called emotions. And we're going to build our concept of relationships based on what we have acquired over the years by putting into this box called emotions. And so I just want you to think of what kind of emotions you experience just through school, right? Let's go back to elementary school, right? I went to Paradise Elementary School. That sounds like a place that would be great to go to elementary school, right? I went to Paradise Elementary School. And I'm sitting in class one day, and I got a note passed to me. Now, some of you young whippersnappers, you don't even know what that means. But a girl had to get out a piece of loose leaf paper and actually get out a number 2 pencil and write it. She didn't text it. She didn't email it. She actually wrote it on a dead piece of tree. They don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, loose leaf paper, what does that even mean? I know it's olden days. But Debbie Bird, Debbie Bird, y'all, sent me a note. And I get that note, and I follow back where it came from, and I lock eyes with her, and she winked at me. Shot through the heart, and you're to blame, baby. You give love a bad name. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Debbie Bird shot me through the heart with a wink, and that was what I began to think, well, this is what love feels like. And then we get to junior high, right? If elementary wasn't good enough, we get to junior high. And I sit there on my first date with Kim Gibson. And the date was, I was either 12 or 13, and she was 15 or 16. I was into older women in junior high, and so I'm sitting there with her. I don't know what she was thinking, but I'm sitting there with her watching fireworks at somebody's house that we went to church with, and we're outside in the front yard on a blanket. And 15 minutes into the conversation, I looked deep in her eyes, and I said, Kim Gibson, I love you. She looked back at me, and she said, slow down. That's a true story. We didn't go on another date, but anyway. The fireworks were good. But I put those emotions into the box, and I said, this is what love feels like. And then you get to high school. And I remember the feeling whenever Shawnette Sermons told me, yes, I'll go to prom with you, Russ. Again, Shawnette Sermons sounds like somebody you would go to prom with, right? And so we went, and it was an incredible, incredible relationship that we began, boys and girls, and we said yes to each other, and we started going together. That was the terminology that we used back in the olden days. We didn't know where we were going. We were just going together. And we began this relationship, and so she asked me, she said, hey, I know what I want for Christmas. And I was like, yes, honey, anything. She said, I want a promise ring. Now, number one, I don't think it's exactly the right thing to ask for a promise ring, but that's beside the point. I didn't even know what a promise ring was, but I said, I don't know what I'm promising you, but yes, I'll get you a promise ring. And so I got her a promise ring. And then I remember how it felt whenever I gave her, I'm promising you. I don't know what I'm promising, but I'm promising something, and I promise you. And then she broke up with me, and I remember the heartbreak, and I remember this is what love feels like. And then I get to college, and I remember realizing for the first time that Stephanie Mercer was also going to summer classes. and that God had brought two people together. And we're walking across campus one day, and I reached down to hold her hand. And guys, you're going to understand exactly what I'm talking about right here, because it takes so much guts to reach out and grab for a hand, because I've grabbed for hands before and I've gotten the, but you know what I'm talking about. Guys, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's tough. Chicks think it's so easy, but it's hard grabbing a hand. But anyway, I grabbed her hand and she grabbed back, and it was in that moment, walking to the Wigwam cafeteria to eat French fries and tacos, that I knew Stephanie Cripps would one day become Stephanie Cripps. And this weekend, we went and we ate French fries again. And we ate tacos, and for 29 years and 34 days, we've been sharing tacos and French fries, and that's a beautiful thing. But here's the problem. I want you to understand all of those little silly stories that I just said. We think that that is where we get our information for what goes in this box. We think that that's where we get our information, to where we're going to build relationships. We're going to have some relationships established in our life, and we're going to begin to build on them. And so we set those down because, you know what? They make us feel good. Right? I mean, you go out with the girl, you go out with the dude or whatever, and you're just like, they just make me feel good, right? And because you start thinking emotionally, and because it just feels good, right? And if we weren't supposed to be together, then, it's just like 4 weeks in, but we would already know if it didn't feel right. And so it begins to move. And so we get to the next box, which this next box is the box that I like to call the physical box. And it's at this physical box that things begin to point towards something physical. And you're thinking, well, he is cute. You start looking at the physical attributes, and she is cute. And it's at this point in the relationship that you are the ultimate optimist. You're the eternal optimist. Like, you're seeing the best in them. You're giving them every benefit of the doubt, right? And the girls are like, sure. I mean, the FBI is wanting to question him, but I think he works out, It could be something, right? And the guys are like, yeah, she's got tattoos all over her body that say, I love Satan and 666 and stuff. But hashtag long sleeves, right? We can wear long sleeves, and maybe she can learn to love Jesus. And it's at this point in the shelf life in the relationship that you think, well, it makes me feel good. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the physical attributes of the relationship, and I'm going to step into a physical act, and I am actually going to end up making a physical mistake. But it feels good, because when we build the physical on top of the emotional, it kind of lines up, and it's sort of working. I know we're just 4 weeks into the relationship, but man, it just feels right, just feels good. And so then it's at that point that you're like, well, we went ahead and went there, so we might as well make it official. And so we bring out the next box, which this next box is just simply what I call the social box. Because you feel like, well, I've done some things in private, and so I might as well go ahead and bring out some things in public. And so it's at this point in the relationship that it becomes real. It becomes Facebook official, ladies and gentlemen, right? And that's the modern day equivalent of like going to Thanksgiving dinner with somebody, like back in the 80s, right? This is a big deal. And you understand that the girl is like saying things like, well, I've got this dinner party this weekend, and I'm going to take you with it, but you better be a good boy. And we're like, she's totally treating us like a puppy, but we're okay with it. We're going to go out with her, and we're going to behave ourselves, and it's going to be a big thing. And so we're just going ahead, and we're 6 weeks into the relationship. Everything's going good, and we're building on the fact that every time I'm with her, every time I'm with him, it just feels good, man. It just feels right. And again, I don't know that much about them, but they're fine. They look good. In the social aspect, my friends approve of them. My friends don't mind hanging out with them. And, I know we probably shouldn't have gone to that step, but, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. And it's at this point in the relationship that it finally dawns on you that you have not included the most important box of all the boxes. You finally begin to realize, wait a minute, I've approached this exactly backwards. And so the last box that we're going to add to this system that we're building is the spiritual box. And so here we begin to look and say, well, what's your faith journey? Like, I know we've been together for about 6 or 7 weeks now, and we've had some good times, and we've gone to a wedding and some dinner parties, and it's been cool, and you know, it feels good. But like, where's this going? You know, where are you going? Let's get honest, and let's figure out where you're going. And so what we do is we begin to see how this is a very important box. This is a big deal. You don't just you can't just throw around the spiritual box. You can't just throw around the spiritual aspect of this. And so what you do is you're like, well, I'm going to go ahead, because my mama told me that I better have some spirituality in my life, and she gets on to me for not going to church. But I've got to figure out how all of this can balance. And it doesn't really, well, see, it's not really making a whole lot of sense because it doesn't really stay up there. But man, it feels good, right? I mean, I know that I don't have things in order because this is really exactly the opposite of how it should be. I should start with the spiritual and then go down, but I've started with the emotional, and because I've started with my emotions and based strictly on what things feel like, then what I've created is I hope that you're hearing me. I've created a very unstable relationship because it will not stand on its own. And I've created problems in my life where I'm constantly having to hold up the spiritual aspect of this. And what begins to happen in your journey of faith is if you put this at the very top, please listen, you're always trying to hold up the spiritual part of your relationship, and it will always crush you because you were never meant to carry your own sins. You were never meant to carry your past regrets. You were never meant to carry your past mistakes. You were meant to be able to build a structure that started with the right structure, and you were meant to build from there and have a strong relationship. Because again, anytime that you try to balance the spiritual on your own, you will get exhausted. You will burn out. You will say, you know what, this is not worth it. I just want to go back to where it made me feel good again. And even though you know that you've built a relationship that when the easiest storm comes your way, that the whole thing is in danger, you just want to stand here and you want to battle the relationship. And you wonder why you're having to battle the relationship. It's because you're having to battle the relationship. It's not built right. It's not built properly. And so you hope and you pray that maybe it will be okay because you realize that it's not built good, but it's built, and so we'll just hold on. And so that leads me to the point of week 1. And it really sets up weeks 2, 3, and 4. On the screen or in your notes, all good relationships begin with a God relationship. All good relationships in your life begin with a God relationship in your life. Because you see, the most important thing that you can do to reach #goal status type relationships is you can make sure that the most important relationship is the most important. You have to make sure that the most important relationship is the most important. And so what do? We just hope for the best. If as long as the wind doesn't blow too hard, as long as something doesn't get too out of balance. But what we fail to realize is when we do this, if this relationship is not right in our life, then no relationships are going to be right in our life. Listen closely. Until you get the vertical correct, the horizontal is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a train wreck. And you're wondering why you can't have solid relationships around you. You wonder why you can't have healthy relationships around you. And I just want to question you, is this relationship healthy? Is your relationship with your Heavenly Father how it is supposed to be? And so listen, here's the message. You got to catch this. I've said everything that I've said to get to right here. I've covered all this ground to get right here. If you have any goals, if you have any kinds of hopes and dreams for any kind of relationships in your life, you have to realize that all of the other relationships are directly tied to your relationship with Jesus Christ. And if your relationship with Jesus Christ is not as it should be, then nothing else in your life will be as it should be. The Apostle Paul is writing to the church at Colossae, and there's this book in the New Testament called Colossians, and he's addressing the church, and he says this in chapter 2, verse 6 and 7. And now, just as you accepted Christ Jesus as your Lord, you must continue to follow him. Let your roots grow deep into him. Let your lives be built on him. Because one more time, I'll say it. Every time you try to put the spiritual on top, you'll constantly be battling, keeping this in place, and you will grow weary, and you'll be tempted to quit on your whole relationship with God because everything is off balance. And you're constantly trying to keep this thing afloat. You're constantly wrestling with this. And when you do that, you'll constantly be trying to carry the weight of your own sins. And it was never meant to be established that way. It was never meant to be done that way. It was meant to be done exactly the opposite. You were meant to come down here and start with the spiritual. And then once you start with the spiritual, then let's make sure that this is as it should be. Let's make sure that this is right. Let's make sure that this is good. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to then talk about the social aspect of your relationship. How can we talk about that? I am so glad that you asked. You know what you can do? Join a group. Hadn't heard that one today, have you? Join a group. Join a group. Join a group. Because if you're in this relationship, if you're in this marriage and you're just like, well, you know, sometimes it's good, bro, but sometimes it ain't. And I'm just trying to figure it out. You know what you need to do? You need to walk with some godly people who are trying to walk towards a godly marriage themselves. Because listen, when you are in step with godly people, then you will be in step with godly people. And you get around and you start getting some scriptural advice on marriage, not some work advice on marriage. You get some biblical advice on marriage, not some gym advice on marriage, right? And so you join a group, and then you realize, wait a minute, I'm starting to realize how out of order my life really was. And so I see the beauty now. I see that I was making some physical mistakes that should have been grounded on some spiritual realities. And then all of a sudden, whenever everything gets built right, and then you put the emotions up here, then you say, wow, that feels good. That feels like it is supposed to feel, right? All of these emotions. Now you realize we're not drawing from Paradise Elementary School. We're not drawing from junior high. We're not drawing from Tioga High School. We're not drawing from University of Louisiana at Monroe. We're drawing from Scripture. And when we're built right, and we're around the right people, and we're doing the right things, then we're going to be feeling the right way. And you know why it's going to be right? Ready? Because it's going to be righteous. It's going to be right because it's going to be righteous. And Jesus is just saying, hey man, won't you start here? Won't you start with me? In the book of Matthew, it's not on the screen, but in the book of Matthew, he says, hey, I got an idea. Everybody who's weary, come to me. Everybody who's trying to hold this up by yourself, come to me. Because my burden's light. And if you'll just come to me, and let's just start there. It's at that point that you'll be able to stop trying to find another half of you that you think is one day going to make you whole. Because that's exactly what we do in relationships. We think if I can just find the right one, then they'll make me whole. If I can just find the other half, then it'll make me whole. Colossians 2:9-10 says this, for in Christ lives all the fullness of God in a human body. So you also are complete. Everybody say complete. Come on, everybody say complete. You are also complete through your union with Jesus Christ. So when you understand that you are complete in this right here, then suddenly you stop trying to find something in your spouse that will fulfill you, that only Jesus can fulfill. You'll stop looking to the other party and say, if you would just do this, and if you would just be that, then our marriage would be sufficient. You got to stop looking at the wrong places to fill you with something that only God can fill you with. But it starts right here. And then it builds. And then suddenly you realize, oh, this is what goals feels like. This is what it's supposed to be like. And so one last thing before I ask everybody to stand with me. I could talk about this right here for 4 weeks. I could talk about the emotional healing that you need for 4 weeks. I could talk about the physical mistakes that we've made for 4 weeks. I could talk about the social blunders that we've made for 4 weeks. It's very easy to talk about all of this, but here's what I want you to understand before I close. Some of you wish that you had emotional healing, and that's important. Some of you wish that you had physical healing. You got to have it. Some of you wish that you had some social healing. We're going to get there. But you can't seek this kind of healing before you seek this kind of healing. You'll never be whole unless you're spiritually whole. You'll never be who God intended you to be until you're in the relationship that He intended.